It was a quiet, moonless night on the highway, one of those long, dark stretches of road where the only sound is the hum of the tires beneath you, and the flickering headlights cut through the inky blackness like a knife. I was driving alone, my thoughts drifting like the road ahead. The world seemed to be in a deep slumber, and I, too, was slowly losing myself to exhaustion. A long day at work, endless meetings, and never-ending tasks had drained me completely. The silence of the night felt almost too heavy, a silence that pressed against my skin, cold and suffocating. I glanced at the dashboard clock past midnight. I hadn't seen another car in what felt like an eternity, and my eyelids were growing heavier by the second. My grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly, just enough to keep me focused. I didn't want to fall asleep, I couldn't. But the road seemed to stretch on forever, and I was desperately trying to push through the weariness. Then, I noticed something in the distance. A vehicle. It was a truck, moving slowly, its tail lights glowing faintly in the distance. At first, I thought it was just another car, but as I drew closer, something about it felt off. The truck seemed to be moving erratically, weaving slightly across the lane. I tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was just the driver being tired, I reasoned. I had no idea how wrong I was. The truck's brake lights flashed, and I winced. The sudden jolt of the red glow seemed out of place. No cars ahead of it, no debris on the road, just a straight path. I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just an ordinary brake. It was sudden, jarring, too sudden for comfort. I gave the truck more space, but it wasn't enough. The truck did it again. Another hard brake. And another. Each time, the motion was quicker, more violent, like the driver was in some kind of distress or panic. But there was no obvious reason for it. There were no animals, no obstacles on the road, nothing. Just this truck, braking violently for no reason at all. My palms began to sweat, my mind racing. I wasn't sure if I was imagining things, but something about the truck made my heart pound. I pulled further back, keeping my distance, hoping to avoid whatever it was. But the truck seemed to sense my unease. Without warning, it swerved suddenly, crossing into my lane, blocking my path. My breath hitched in my throat, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The truck was trying to force me off the road. I slammed on the brakes, swerving hard to the right. My tires screeched, the car fishtailing slightly as I fought to stay in control. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the truck right behind me, its headlights glowing like two burning eyes. It wasn't just tailgating me, it was pushing me, as though it was trying to chase me down. My heart hammered in my chest, and my mind screamed at me to do something, anything. But the fear was paralyzing. I couldn't think straight. Every time I checked my rearview mirror, the truck was there, relentlessly pursuing me. It was as though the truck was alive, aware of my every move. I was certain now this wasn't just a driver being reckless. This was deliberate. The truck was toying with me. The fear began to build up like a suffocating fog in my lungs. My head was spinning. The road ahead was a blur of dark pavement, and the truck behind me seemed to grow larger with each passing second. My foot pressed harder on the accelerator, but the truck stayed with me, never letting up. I could feel the heat from its headlights, the eerie presence of it inching closer and closer. I thought I was going to lose control. It felt like the truck was somehow pulling me into its orbit, like a predator stalking its prey. But then, just as I was about to make a desperate attempt to outrun it, something changed. The truck suddenly sped up, coming up so close that I could feel the rumble of its engine vibrating through my car. It was like I was trapped in a nightmare. No matter how fast I drove, it was always right behind me. The headlights grew brighter and brighter, casting long, twisted shadows across the road. My breath was shallow now. The fear was overwhelming. There was no way to outrun it. I tried to look ahead, to focus on the road, but all I could think about was the truck. What was it? Why was it doing this? And then, without any warning, the truck did something even more terrifying. It veered off the road entirely. The truck lurched to the side, heading toward the shoulder like it was trying to trap me against the guardrails. The headlights flickered wildly, like it was struggling to stay on the road. For a brief moment, I thought I'd crash, that it was all over. But then, just as quickly as it had started, the truck stopped. I stared in disbelief at the empty road ahead. My heart raced, my hands still clutching the wheel, but there was nothing behind me. No truck. No headlights. No sound. The road was quiet again. Too quiet. I glanced in my rearview mirror. Nothing. The truck had vanished. How? Where did it go? I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. My mind was in a haze, and the silence in the car was suffocating. Was I imagining things? Had I fallen asleep and dreamed the whole thing? But no, the fear still lingered in my chest, a gnawing feeling that I couldn't shake. It wasn't over. I knew it wasn't over. I took a deep breath and forced myself to drive on. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, and my thoughts raced. What the hell had I just experienced? I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to analyze it, because every time I did, the fear returned. But I couldn't help it. I had to know. I reached for my phone, but before I could even unlock it, a thought crossed my mind. What if that truck wasn't real? What if it wasn't a truck at all? What if it was something else entirely? My pulse quickened as I pushed the thought away. No. It couldn't be. But then why had the truck disappeared without a trace? I didn't stop to think about it any longer. I floored the accelerator, wanting to put as much distance as possible between myself and the terrifying encounter. I kept my eyes locked on the road ahead, determined not to look back. Every second felt like an eternity. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, following me. A presence, unseen but very real, lurking just beyond my reach. The road stretched on endlessly. I drove faster, the miles blurring past. But no matter how fast I went, I couldn't outrun the fear. It clung to me like a shadow, growing stronger the longer I thought about it. And then, as if to confirm my worst fears, something else happened. The radio, which had been silent the entire trip, crackled to life. The static at first was just a murmur, but then a voice came through. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakable. "We're waiting." I nearly jumped out of my skin, my heart in my throat. I turned the volume down frantically, but the voice kept repeating itself. Each time, the words felt heavier, more sinister. The truck was still there, lurking in the shadows of my mind. I couldn't escape it. I don't know if it was a ghost, a hallucination, or something far darker, but I knew one thing for sure: it was real, and it was coming for me. To anyone who drives late at night, when the world around you seems like a quiet, unbroken shadow, remember this: not every shadow belongs to the night. Some things lurk in the darkness, things that aren't meant to be understood or explained. If you find yourself on a lonely road, and you see a truck ahead, no matter how normal it may seem, take caution. Don't be foolish like me. Don't ignore your instincts. Because sometimes, the fear that gnaws at you, the unease that settles deep in your bones, is telling you something you don't want to know. Trust your instincts. Don't look back. And most importantly, drive safely. You never know what might be following you. It was the dead of night when I decided to pull over at a lonely rest stop along the highway. The kind of place where only the most determined of travelers would stop, the one with cracked asphalt and flickering streetlights that barely lit the surroundings. It was a place that seemed to exist in a forgotten corner of the world, far away from the bustle of the city. No cars were in sight except a couple of old, rusted vehicles parked off to the side. The moment I stepped out of my car, I felt the eerie stillness in the air, the kind of silence that weighed on your chest and made your own breathing sound too loud. The wind whispered through the trees, their leaves rustling softly, as if they were talking amongst themselves. I stretched my arms, trying to shake off the fatigue from the long drive, then made my way toward the restrooms to relieve myself. I was alone, or so I thought. As I walked back to my car, I noticed a man standing in the shadows near the corner of the building. At first, I assumed he was just another traveler, maybe taking a break or resting. But the longer I looked at him, the more my stomach turned. He didn't move. He didn't even seem to blink. His presence was like a stone in the middle of a calm river, unnatural, disrupting the peace around him. His eyes. That was the first thing I noticed. They were deep, black holes, absorbing all the light around him. They didn't reflect anything. There was no humanity in them, just darkness. I quickly looked away, feeling a surge of anxiety flood through me. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel his gaze piercing into my skin. I tried to act normal, walking briskly back to my car, my heartbeat quickening with every step. But when I reached my vehicle, I glanced back, and the man was still standing there, unmoving. I rushed to my car, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the door handle. I had no logical reason to be afraid. It was just a man, right? But everything about him screamed wrong. The way he stood rigid, as if he had no intention of moving, felt unnatural. I slammed the door shut and locked it, trying to shake the growing unease from my chest. The silence around me thickened, making the air feel oppressive, almost suffocating. I started the car and turned on the headlights, the yellow beams cutting through the darkness. But even with the light, the sense of dread only grew. The light from the headlights illuminated the same empty space, but there was something wrong with the way it flickered. The shadows around the building stretched longer than they should, like they were reaching toward me, pulling me deeper into the night. As I sat in my car, my hands gripping the wheel too tightly, I noticed something unsettling. The man was no longer in the same place. I tried to shake it off, telling myself that I was just being paranoid. But as I looked toward the rearview mirror, I saw him again. He wasn't in front of the building anymore. He had moved closer to my car, and now he stood at the side of my vehicle. My heart skipped a beat. How had he moved so quickly? I hadn't seen him walk, and yet there he was, standing just beyond the reach of the headlights. His face remained motionless, but I could feel his eyes on me, staring straight through the glass of my car. I couldn't breathe. The air felt impossibly cold. I glanced at the door handle, my mind screaming at me to drive away, but my body refused to obey. Every part of me wanted to lock the doors and never look back, but something inside me couldn't look away from the man. His stillness had an eerie quality, like he was waiting for something, or perhaps he was waiting for me. Then, something shifted. He began to move. Slowly. Methodically. I felt my heart race in my chest, as if it were pounding in sync with his footsteps. He didn't rush, his pace was unnervingly deliberate, each step growing louder in my ears, though the rest stop remained eerily quiet. My palms were sweaty, my breath shallow. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to run, but I remained frozen in place, unable to move. His face came into view through the window. I could see him clearly now, an older man, his face weathered with age, deeply etched with wrinkles. His skin was pale, almost ghostly in the harsh light. But it was his eyes that captured my attention the most. Those hollow, dark eyes, staring straight at me with an intensity that sent a cold shiver down my spine. There was no warmth in them. No emotion. Just an unblinking, cold stare. And then he smiled. It was a twisted, grotesque smile. A grin so wide that it stretched unnaturally across his face, exposing yellow teeth, crooked and sharp. My blood ran cold, and I instinctively jerked back in my seat, pressing my back against the cold leather. I couldn't look away. My body refused to move, and my mind seemed to shut down. His gaze felt like a vice, squeezing my chest tighter with every passing second. I wanted to scream, to drive off, to do anything, but I couldn't. The fear held me in place, paralyzed in the face of the impossible. He took a step closer. I could see the faintest trace of a smile curling at the corners of his lips. It was as if he knew I couldn't move, as if he reveled in my fear. The temperature inside the car dropped, and I felt a chill that sunk deep into my bones. The car seemed to grow colder with each second that passed. Suddenly, I snapped out of my trance. I wasn't going to let this man, the thing standing outside my window, win. I gripped the wheel, my breath ragged, my mind racing. I wasn't going to die here, not like this, not at a damn rest stop in the middle of nowhere. With trembling hands, I started the engine, the roar of the car breaking the unnatural silence. I didn't look back. I floored the accelerator, speeding out of the rest stop without a second thought. The headlights blurred, the car jerking forward as I pushed it faster and faster down the road. I glanced in the rearview mirror, expecting to see the man chasing me, but there was nothing. No figure in the distance. No pale face in the shadows. Nothing. I kept driving, my foot glued to the pedal, but the fear never left me. It clung to me like a shadow, growing stronger with each mile I put between myself and the rest stop. It was as if the man was still there, watching me, waiting for me to falter. By the time I reached a small town, I could barely keep my eyes open. I pulled into the first gas station I saw, the quiet hum of the fluorescent lights buzzing above. I needed a moment to breathe. I needed to calm down. But when I looked around the parking lot, I froze. My car was the only one in sight. And in the distance, by the edge of the lot, there was a man standing there. His back to me, motionless, just like the one at the rest stop. I didn't wait to find out who it was. I couldn't. I slammed the car into gear and drove off, my mind racing with the same terrifying question. Who was he? And why was he following me? To anyone who travels alone at night, especially on desolate roads or remote stops, I offer this warning: sometimes, the things that seem like ordinary moments are not so ordinary at all. I don't know if that man, if that thing was human. I don't know if it was a ghost, a hallucination, or something far darker. But I do know that it followed me. And I do know that there are things out there that we will never understand. If you find yourself in a situation like I did, stuck at a quiet, empty rest stop late at night, trust your instincts. Don't engage. Don't get out of your car. Just drive. Whatever happens, don't look back. Because sometimes, looking back is the mistake that costs you everything.